Nah. The fluorescent lights above the display case hummed the way they always did on Friday evenings. Steady, reliable, mine. I had wiped down the glass counter 3 times already, not because it was dirty, but because I needed something to do with my hands while the last customers of the week filtered out into the cold Ottawa air. My bakery smelled like brown butter and cardamom. It smelled like 4 years of early mornings and cracked knuckles and flour ground into the lines of my palms. It smelled like the only place in the world where I felt completely safe. I was reaching for my keys when the front door opened. I didn't look up right away. We were technically closed. I assumed someone had forgotten their order. It happened on Fridays. I assumed I would smile, hand them their box, wish them a good weekend. Then I heard my mother say my name. Not the way a mother says her daughter's name when she has missed her. The way she said it when she wanted something. I looked up slowly. My mother was standing just inside the doorway, still holding it open behind her. My father stepped in beside her. And behind him, my brother Derek shuffled in with his eyes on the floor, the way he always stood when he knew he had done something wrong and was waiting for someone else to take the heat for it. I had not spoken to any of them in 3 years, 2 months, and 11 days. Not that I had been counting. I set my keys down on the counter very carefully, the way you set something down when you need your hands to stop shaking before anyone notices. "We need to talk," my mother said. I had imagined this moment more times than I would ever admit. Late nights stacking trays, early mornings proofing dough, long drives home on the 417 when the highway was empty and my thoughts got louder than the radio. I had imagined what I would say. I had imagined what I would say. I had imagined crying. I had imagined slamming a door. What I had not imagined was how ordinary they would look. My father in his gray Carhartt jacket, my mother with her reusable grocery bag still looped over one wrist like she had come straight from the Loblaws on St. Laurent. Derek staring at the tile. "We're closed," I said. My mother stepped further inside. "Sara, please." That word, please, from her mouth, in this space, felt wrong in a way I couldn't immediately name. She had never once said please to me about anything. She had said, "You owe us." She had said after everything we've done. She had said, "Do you know what you're putting this family through?" But not please. That should have been my first sign that this was not a reunion. It was a transaction. I crossed my arms and waited. My father cleared his throat. He reached into the inside pocket of his jacket and pulled out a manila envelope. He set it on my display case, on the glass I had just wiped clean 3 times, without asking. "Your brother needs help," he said. "We all need help, and you're in a position to give it." I looked at the envelope. I did not touch it. "What is that?" "Derek took out a loan," my mother said. Her voice had shifted into the tone I recognized from childhood, the one that meant she had already decided how this conversation was going to go, and my job was to follow along. "To start his landscaping company. You know he's been trying to get it off the ground." I knew. I had heard about it secondhand through my cousin Trish, who still texted me occasionally with updates on the family I had stopped attending dinners for. Derek's company had apparently been operational for about 8 months before it quietly stopped being operational. Equipment bought on credit. A truck leased in his name. 3 employees who had not been paid their final checks. He defaulted, my father said, like he was reading from a document. The loan was through a private lender. They're pursuing the balance. It's affecting our house. "How is Derek's loan affecting your house?" I said. A pause. My father adjusted his jacket. My mother looked at the pastry case. "We co-signed," my father said. And there it was. I had co-signed nothing. I had been asked to, 3 years ago, and I had said no. I had said no clearly in the kitchen of my parents' house in Barhaven, standing at the same counter where I had done homework as a child, and my father had looked at me like I had slapped him. My mother had cried. Derek had said he thought he could count on me. I had driven home and applied the last of my savings toward the deposit on this space instead. 2 months later, my mother had stopped returning my calls. Then my father. Then Christmas came and went without an invitation. 3 years, 2 months, 11 days. "I'm sorry that happened," I said. I was not sorry. I was something, but it was not sorry. "I don't know what you want me to do about it." My father tapped the envelope. "Open it." I did not open it. He sighed, the long, burdened sigh of a man who considered himself very patient, and opened it himself. He slid out several pages and turned them toward me on the counter. I looked. It was a proposal. Someone had actually typed it up, formatted it, printed it on clean white paper. It outlined the loan balance, $41,000, and the projected interest accumulating against my parents' home. It outlined Derek's inability to repay. And then, on the third page, it outlined what they were asking for. They wanted me to assume 20% of my bakery's monthly net revenue, paid directly to a repayment account they had already set up, until the loan was cleared. I read it twice. "You want 20% of my revenue," I said. "It's not forever," my mother said quickly. "Just until you want 20% of what I make here." I heard my own voice come out flat and even, which surprised me because what was happening in my chest was not flat and even at all. The business I built without any help from anyone in this family. The business I started after you all stopped talking to me because I wouldn't co-sign a loan for a company that has now defaulted. Sara. My father's voice dropped into the register he used when he thought I was being dramatic. "You cut me off for 3 years and now you're standing in my bakery with a revenue-sharing proposal." "We're family," my mother said. And there it was, the sentence I had been waiting for. The one that was supposed to make everything else dissolve. The one that meant I was supposed to stop talking and start writing checks. Family helps each other. I tried to help, I said. I said no to the cosign and offered to help Derek put together a proper business plan instead. "Do you remember that?" He told me to mind my own business. Derek said nothing. He was still looking at the floor. I had the distinct impression he had been told to stay quiet. My father straightened the papers. "We didn't come here to argue about the past." "Then why did you come here to argue about the past?" "Then why did you come here at all?" I said. "Because you're the only one of us in a position to do something." He said it without any apparent awareness of what it meant, that I was in a position because I had made choices they had punished me for, that the stability they were now trying to draw from was built in the years they had refused to speak to me. "The lender has given us until the end of the month. If we don't show some movement on the balance, they start proceedings against the house." "That is a serious situation," I said. "You should speak to a debt consultant. There are non-profit credit counseling services in Ottawa. The Credit Counseling Society has an office on Marivalle." My mother blinked. "We're not going to a counselor," she said. "We're asking you. I'm not a bank. You're our daughter. You treated me like I wasn't for 3 years. The silence that followed that sentence was a different kind of silence. Not the silence of a conversation pausing, the silence of something finally being said that had been sitting in the room the whole time. My mother looked at my father. My father looked at the papers. Derek finally looked up. He was 31 years old, and he looked in that moment genuinely ashamed, which was new. Derek had a talent for moving through the world as though consequences happened to other people. He had been bailed out of a speeding ticket by my father calling in a favor, bailed out of a failed semester by my mother paying to have a grade reviewed, bailed out of every situation that should have taught him something. And now he was standing in my bakery waiting to be bailed out again, and he at least had the decency to look like he knew it. "I'm sorry," he said. It was the first thing he'd said since walking in. "For which part?" I said. He didn't answer. "For the loan," I said. "For the company failing. For telling me to mind my own business when I offered to help properly. For the 3 years. For showing up here." "Which part, Derek?" "All of it," he said quietly. I believed him. That was the complicated thing. I believed that he was sorry, the way people are sorry when they are sitting in the mess of a choice and wishing it would go away. I was not sure he was sorry in the way that changes anything. I looked back at my father. "I'm not signing this," I said, pushing the papers back across the counter. My father's jaw tightened. "We are not leaving here without a commitment," he said. "Yes, you are. Sara." His voice had gone hard. "You have a very nice business here. It would be a shame if questions started getting raised about your health inspection history, your licensing." I went very still. "Excuse me, I'm just saying." He adjusted his jacket again. "Your landlord is Bob Tremblay. He was at the same Rotary chapter as me for 6 years. I still have his number." I looked at my father. I looked at the man who had taught me to ride a bike in the driveway of the Barhaven house, who had driven me to every single one of my culinary school classes at Algonquin when my car was in the shop for 2 weeks, who had stood at my graduation and cried. I had seen him cry. He would have denied it, and I felt something close with a quiet, definitive click. "You just threatened me," I said. "I'm making you aware of your situation. In my place of business. In front of witnesses." I glanced toward the back kitchen, where my assistant baker Priya had been prepping tomorrow's croissant dough for the last hour and had very likely heard every word of this conversation through the pass-through window. You came into my bakery after 3 years of silence with a financial proposal, and when I declined, you threatened to contact my landlord. That's called extortion. In Canada, that's a criminal offense under Section 346 of the Criminal Code. My father laughed, the short, dismissive laugh of someone who thinks they have not just made a serious miscalculation. You're not going to call the police on your own father. I reached under the counter and picked up the folder I had placed there 4 days ago, when my cousin Trish had texted me a heads up that my parents were asking around about my business and she thought I should know. I set the folder on the counter next to their proposal. I've known this conversation was coming for 4 days, I said. I spoke to a lawyer on Tuesday. That folder contains a letter from her office, a summary of the relevant sections of the criminal code, and documentation of a debt that I would like to discuss with you. My mother made a small sound. What debt? My father said. When I was 23, I said, I had a joint account with this family for incidental household expenses. I'd gone back through my records. Over 14 months, withdrawals were made from that account that I did not authorize and was never informed of. The total, adjusted for interest at the Bank of Canada rate, is approximately $9,400. I have the transaction records. My lawyer has copies. My father opened his mouth. Closed it. I was never going to bring this up, I said. Because I had decided to let it go. I had decided that it was more important to move forward than to look backward. But you came into my space and threatened me, so I am now looking backward. Those were family expenses. They were taken from an account in my name without my consent, I said. That is a different thing. The room was completely quiet. Outside, a city bus moved down the street. The display case hummed. I have 2 options to offer you, I said. Option 1. You take your proposal, you leave my bakery, and we agree that this conversation never happened. I won't pursue the $9,000. You contact a credit counselor and work out the loan situation through legitimate channels. Option 2. We can continue this conversation with lawyers present, at which point I will be filing a formal complaint regarding the threat you just made and submitting my account documentation for review. My father stared at me. My mother had sat down uninvited in one of the cafe chairs by the window. She looked like she had arrived somewhere she had not expected to arrive. Derek was looking at me with an expression I could not quite read. Not shame anymore. Something more complicated. Maybe something like recognition. Option 1, my father said finally. The word came out stiff, like it cost him something to produce it. Good, I said. I picked up their proposal from the counter and held it out. He took it. I need you to leave now. I have closing work to finish. My mother stood up slowly. She picked up her reusable grocery bag. At the door, she turned back. We raised you, she said. Not angry. Just placing it there. Like a stone she needed to put down somewhere. I know, I said. I'm not saying you didn't. I'm saying that what you raised me to be is exactly why I'm not signing anything tonight. She held my eyes for a moment. Then she walked out. My father followed without another word. Derek paused at the door and turned around. The business plan offer, he said. Is that still? I mean, would you? I thought about it. Not right now, I said. Maybe someday. Not right now. He nodded. He looked like he understood. The door closed behind him. Priya came through from the kitchen a few seconds later, holding a bench scraper and not even slightly pretending she hadn't heard everything. Do you need me to stay? She asked. No, I said. Finish up the croissant prep and head home. I'll lock up. She nodded. She went back through the pass-through. She didn't say anything else, which was exactly why she was the first person I had hired and the last one I would ever let go. I stood behind my counter for a while after that. The display case hummed. The lights were steady. Outside, the street was dark and cold, the way Ottawa gets in early March. The kind of cold that has been going on long enough that everyone has stopped mentioning it. I thought about my father's face when I opened the folder. I thought about my mother sitting down in my cafe chair like the ground had shifted under her. I thought about Derek asking, quietly, at the door, whether the offer still stood. I did not feel triumphant. That surprised me. I had expected to feel something sharp and bright, something like winning. What I felt was closer to tired, and underneath the tired, something that might eventually become okay. I had not built this place to prove anything to anyone. I had built it because I was good at it, and because the smell of brown butter at 6 in the morning felt like the truest version of myself I had ever found. I had built it through the years they were not speaking to me, and the not speaking had hurt, and I had built it anyway. They could not take that. They had not been there for it, and so it did not belong to them, and no proposal on clean white paper was going to change that. I picked up my keys. I turned off the display case lights. I texted my lawyer a single message. They came. It went fine. Thank you. I'll call Monday. And she responded immediately with a thumbs up, even though it was almost 8 o'clock on a Friday, which I made a note to address in the form of a very good bottle of wine delivered to her office. I set the alarm, stepped outside into the cold, and locked the door behind me. On the sidewalk, I stood for a moment and looked up at the sign above the window, the one I had designed myself. The lettering I had agonized over for 3 weeks, the dark green background my friend Keiko had talked me into, and that turned out to be exactly right. It had my name on it, not my family's name, not a name I had borrowed or inherited or been given as a condition of belonging somewhere. Mine. I pulled my coat tighter and walked to my car. I had bread to proof in the morning.